Festival, speaking with
Maya Lau
and Malnati.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. So we're here for a podcast reading. Tell me about your thoughts going into the event today.
Yeah, well, we're just so excited to finally share this project that we've been working on for so long about financial fraudster Charles Ponzi, and yeah, it's really exciting to be here.
I mean, for me, I'm based in the podcast industry, now going more into TV, but to have an event like this that's really around podcasts and the podcast community, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
So this revolves around the creator of the Ponzi scheme, Charles Ponzi is his name. So tell me a little bit how you did your research into understanding more about the man's life while making the podcast.
Yeah, well, there's some books that have been written. We unearthed a memoir that not many people have read. We read tons of news clippings and really went back in time. It happened 100 years ago. So there's not a lot of audio that we have from that time, but we were able to read a lot of, past memoirs, news clips to put together the story.
I mean, the thing about this that's funny is like, for as little as people know about this, at that time, he was the most famous person in the country, you could say. And that's how much you were seeing him in the newspaper. So for us to be able to pour over newspaper after newspaper after newspaper, I mean, it was like, it was like, what would you liken him to in today's news world of a popular person?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare him to anyone. I mean, Bernie Madoff would be the biggest Ponzi schemer we know, but it was more of I don't know if Beyonce would be too big, but it was a very famous, well-known name because people actually read newspapers those days.
Sure.
So to have your name in the headlines meant that everyone was paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Do you think that modern day Ponzi schemes might be things like in the crypto world when they have a coin and then they get rug pulled and people lose their money? Is that a new modern age Ponzi scheme, some would say, or what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, there's crypto Ponzi schemes left and right because, nobody really understands money, nobody really understands crypto, and so it's really easy to get ripped off that way.
I think we haven't even seen even a little bit of it yet. I think what's coming, and now the infiltration in such a big way of AI, I think that there's so much more that can happen in a bad way.
Yeah, that's true. We hope for not bad things to happen in the future in terms of the crypto world. But final question is about podcasts. So this is an Apple original podcast. Tell me about, since you say that you work in the world of podcasts, how are you seeing them develop and what way are they trending for audience viewers and so on?
I mean, listen, I think the reason that I got into podcasting was to do things like this, right? Limited series, super high quality, artistic, takes a lot of time to do them, and what we're seeing more and more of these days in the space is a lot more weekly chat shows. And by the way, nothing wrong with a chat show. I love a chat show. This is a totally different animal and a totally different beast. And so what I'm seeing is I think the cream rises to the top. And so if you can put out something like this that's incredible, there's always going to be room for things like this. And on the same side of the chat shows, more and more video and people are engaging more and more with all different types of podcast content. So.
Thank you for coming to speak with me. So we're here for an amazing event. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm here to moderate the event about the Apple's new podcast, Charles Ponzi Story, Easy Money, starring Sebastian Maniscalco.
Sure.
Good friend of mine, Will, is one of the executive producers, so I got to have a sneak peek of all 8 episodes, and it's a fascinating story. Ponzi schemes are something that have been around since the early 1900s, thanks to Charles Ponzi, the inventor of them. They happen more than we think, so this has dramatic reenactments thanks to a memoir that Charles left us, and McMaster just left us as well, but also has journalists and research, and it's sort of intertwined dramatic reenactments and also factual information, and it's a really interesting way of storytelling. It's a new way of storytelling and a new thing for podcasts, and I think that people are really finding a new way to absorb entertainment that way.
I think it's interesting. You've been involved in the podcast world. You have a podcast yourself. How has the podcast that you've been working on been going?
I have 2 podcasts, and they've both been great. I love the podcast world. I think that once you sort of get into them, it kind of becomes your new medium. You know, I think people are really looking to podcasts for a variety of entertainment, and Easy Money is just a new way to get it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, Ponzi Story. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so a guy comes out to United States from Italy, early 1900s. His mother basically said, "Go make it in the United States." And next thing you know, he gets involved with what they now call a Ponzi scheme, bilking people out of $250 million would be today, and dug a hole basically too deep to get out of. I don't think the guy came here to intentionally steal from people. I just think he got caught up in the American dream and trying to succeed, and fell in love with a woman, wanted to provide her with a better life, and screwed up.
What attracted you to the podcast aspect? Have you done the podcast before, and why this particular podcast?
So it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, especially being a comedian. This is kind of where I feel most comfortable, talking with my hands, facial expressions. But when you're in a booth acting with really just a reader or someone behind a glass, you're not doing scene work. It's difficult. So I didn't really know how this was going as far as is this good? Is this something that people are going to listen to? But kind of after listening to it myself, and with the sound effects and they really put it together nice. I was really impressed of what they did. So
nice. Are you thinking about doing other podcasts in the future? I mean, after the completion of Bookie and now moving into this, doing more stand-up or doing more in the podcast world? What are you looking to do?
Listen, stand-up will always kind of be my bread and butter. If a project like this comes along and I feel passionate about it, I'll definitely dip my toe. I'm fortunate where I make a living doing stand-up, so I could, if I want to do these projects, they have to be really enticing for me to get involved. I mean, the acting thing, listen, it's nice, but it's long hours, and
no more 14-hour days.
Well, I mean, for a comedian, I do an hour and a half and I go home.
Yeah.
This is 16 hours a day, and it's all right already. So I got to be really in love with the stuff that I'm doing.